My girlfriend told me she was no longer in love with me, but still wanted to keep living together. So, I became the ideal roommate and quit doing everything for her until she realized what she lost and begged me to take her back. But, I had already met someone better. What if the person you loved most, the one you shared your life with, looked you in the eye and said they didn't love you anymore, but still expected you to pay for everything, like nothing had changed? That's exactly what happened to me. And what I did next? Well, let's just say it redefined our entire relationship in a way neither of us expected. My name is Jake, and for 3 years I was with Belinda. We moved in together about 18 months ago, right after she lost her marketing job. I'm a software engineer, decent money, you know? Belinda started freelancing, but the income was always inconsistent. When we first met, she was this fiercely independent woman. Her own apartment, paid her own bills, never asked for a thing. That's what drew me in. She had her life together, or so I thought. Things started to shift after she moved in. At first, she chipped in from her savings. Then her freelance work dried up, especially around the time things got crazy with the pandemic. I told her, "Don't worry about it, I'll cover us until you're back on your feet." I truly believed it would be temporary. It wasn't. Suddenly, I was paying for everything. Rent, utilities, groceries, both our car insurances, even her phone bill. I added her to my family plan to save money. I became the designated fixer, the cleaner, the social secretary. When we went out with friends, I picked up the tab. Vacations, my treat, flights, hotels, meals, everything. Initially, she seemed grateful. She'd thank me, promise things would change. But as the months turned into a year, the promises faded. She just stopped mentioning it. It was like this was our new normal. She'd ask me to book dinner reservations for her and her friends, expect me to drive her around when her car acted up, make plans for us without consulting me, assuming I'd handle all the logistics and expenses. Our physical relationship was still good. We were intimate. She said she was happy. She'd say, "I love you." We'd cuddle on the couch. From the outside, we looked like the perfect couple. We talked about a bigger place, maybe even getting a dog. Then, 3 weeks ago, everything shattered. We were watching some reality show, and I was getting ready for an early meeting. I leaned in to kiss her goodnight, like I always did. She pulled back. Her face was different. She muted the TV, turned to me, and said she needed to tell me something important. "Jake," she started, "I like you as a person, and I enjoy living with you, but I'm not in love with you anymore." My heart just dropped. She said she hadn't been in love with me for months, maybe longer. She wanted to be honest, she said, because she respected me too much to pretend. I managed to ask, "So what now? What about our living situation, our relationship?" And her answer, it still stings. "I hope we can continue living together as friends," she said. "We work well as roommates. There's no reason to mess up a good thing. I value our friendship. I don't want to lose that by making things complicated." I just needed to breathe. "I need to think about it," I told her and went to bed. About 20 minutes later, my phone started buzzing. See, we had this shared tablet we'd use for texts, and I still had access to her group chat with her 3 closest friends. I watched horrified as the messages popped up. Belinda was telling them everything. Her friends were gushing. "So brave. So mature. It shows how much you care, not to lie to him." They praised her for having the courage to have a hard conversation. That's when it hit me, like a punch to the gut. She wasn't being brave. She wasn't being honest. She was being practical. She'd figured out a way to keep all the benefits of our relationship. The free rent, the financial security, the emotional support, the companionship, without any of the obligations that come with actually being in love. She just didn't want the guilt. The next morning, my voice steady, I told her I was fine with being roommates. She seemed so relieved. She hugged me. "I'm so glad you understand, Jake. This will be better for both of us in the long run." That was my turning point. Right then and there, I decided to become the perfect roommate. Not boyfriend. Roommate. I stopped making her coffee. I used to make a full pot, leave her mug out. Now, I make exactly 1 cup in my travel mug and take it to work. I stopped doing her laundry. Her clothes used to go in with mine. Now, just my stuff. I stopped buying her favorite foods. No more specific yogurt brand, no more expensive granola. Just what I needed for myself. Last week, she asked me to book dinner for her and her girlfriends. "Oh, I'm busy that evening," I said, "but you should call directly. They usually have availability if you call ahead." Her car started making that grinding noise again. "That sounds frustrating," I told her. "You should get some quotes from local mechanics. Yelp's usually pretty good for reviews." She started looking at me, like she was waiting for me to do something. Dishes would pile up, probably hoping I'd wash them. I just washed mine. left hers. She started playing sad music, sighing loudly when I was nearby. Yesterday, she asked if I wanted to watch a movie. Nah, I said, heading to the gym. I can see the frustration building in her every day. But why? I'm giving her exactly what she asked for. We're roommates. I treat her with basic politeness, respect, but none of the extras you get from someone who's in love with you. Then, yesterday, her phone got shut off. I'd removed my card from her family plan. She came to me in a panic. What happened? I just explained. Well, since we're not really a family anymore, it makes sense for you to have your own plan. I can help you set up service with Verizon or T-Mobile if you like. I wasn't trying to be mean. Not for revenge. I was just being logical. She ended the romantic relationship, so I was adjusting my behavior to match that reality. I don't do extra things for roommates that I would only do for someone I love. The lease on our apartment is up in 2 months. I'm not renewing it. I've been looking at 1-bedroom places closer to my office. Belinda doesn't know yet. She hasn't asked. And roommates, they don't typically discuss long-term housing plans unless it directly affects the other person. Am I handling this wrong? Should I be trying to work things out? I feel like I'm being reasonable, but maybe I'm missing something. Update 1. Wow, the response to my post was insane. A lot of you asked for an update, so here it is. Things have gotten more interesting. Belinda's frustration has escalated into something closer to panic. I think she's finally grasping the full implications of what she asked for. Let's start with her birthday last week. Belinda turned 27 on Tuesday. In the past, I'd planned something huge. 2 years ago, Napa Valley. Last year, a fancy Italian dinner with all her friends. Weeks of planning, reservations, coordinating. This year, I wished her happy birthday in the morning and asked if she had fun plans. She looked at me like I was speaking Martian. I thought we might do something together, she said. I smiled. That sounds nice. What did you have in mind? She admitted she hadn't made specific plans because she assumed I'd handle it, like I always did. I gently reminded her, honey, planning birthday celebrations is typically what boyfriends do for girlfriends, or what people do for themselves. Since we're roommates now, I figured you'd want to celebrate with your actual friends, not your roommate. She just stared for a long moment. Then she said she'd figure something out. She spent most of the day frantically texting. Most of her friends were busy. It was a Tuesday and she gave them no notice. She ended up ordering Chinese food and eating it alone while watching Netflix. I was at the office working on a project. The financial reality has been hitting her even harder. After the phone bill, there were more wake-up calls. Her car registration was due last month. I used to handle all that paperwork. She didn't realize it was her responsibility until she got pulled over for expired tags. A $250 ticket plus late fees. Then our car insurance. I removed her from my policy. She had to get her own, which cost significantly more than the family discount she was getting with me. She even called me at work, confused why her new card wasn't working when she tried to show it to the officer. She keeps asking me to drive her places because her car is still making noise. Last Saturday, she needed to go to Target, a 20-minute drive. I told her I had plans to go hiking with my friend, Mike, but I could drop her off on my way. How am I supposed to get home? She asked. I suggested an Uber or the bus. The bus stop is right outside Target, direct route to our place. She took the bus. It took over an hour, with a 30-minute wait and 2 transfers. She came home with heavy bags, looking utterly exhausted. I think she's finally realizing how much I was managing behind the scenes. All the little things that make life easier. Now she has to figure it out herself, and she's discovering being an adult requires a lot more planning and money than she remembered. Her freelance work has picked up a little, but not nearly enough. She got $800 for a logo design. But between her new phone, car insurance, that traffic ticket, and her own groceries, it disappeared. Fast. She's been eating a lot of pasta and canned soup. Me. I'm still buying my fresh vegetables, good meat, organic stuff. It's all on my designated shelves in the fridge and pantry. Last weekend, she actually asked if she could borrow some of my food. She was low, waiting for a payment. I told her, anything in the shared sections like salt and pepper, that's fair game. The rest is my personal food. She asked if I could spot her some money for groceries. I explained that lending money to roommates can get awkward, especially with no clear repayment timeline. Maybe ask your friends or family, I suggested, or pick up some extra freelance. The social dynamics are interesting, too. Her friends don't come over as much. I think they feel awkward. When they do, they whisper, constantly glancing at me. 2 of them, Patty and Amanda, came over last Thursday. Clearly there for emotional support, probably to talk about me. I said hello, then retreated to my office. I could hear their hushed voices for 2 hours. As they were leaving, Patty stopped by my office door. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" she asked. "Belinda's going through a hard time. Is there any way you guys could work things out? She really cares about you. Maybe she just got scared of commitment." I told Patty I appreciated her concern, but Belinda had been very clear about not being in love with me. "I'm respecting her honesty," I said, and trying to be a good friend by not pressuring her. Patty looked frustrated. "That's not what I meant," she insisted. "Sometimes people say things they don't really mean when they're stressed or confused." I just asked, "Patty, do you think Belinda was lying when she said she wasn't in love with me?" She didn't have a good answer. It made me realize her friends are trying to fix something Belinda herself declared broken. They're treating this like a temporary relationship problem, not the permanent change she requested. I've been going out more. Joined a hiking group, hitting the gym. Signed up for a cooking class I always wanted to try. Belinda's home alone most evenings now. She used to have plans constantly. I don't know if she can't afford it, or if her friends are less available now that she doesn't have a boyfriend to coordinate things. I actually found a great apartment. 1 bedroom. 15 minutes closer to work. Great kitchen, small balcony. Rent is even less than what I'm paying now. I haven't signed anything yet. I want to give her enough notice. But she still hasn't asked about the lease renewal, and it's due in 6 weeks. She's probably assuming I'll just handle it, like I always did. Update 2. Okay, things have escalated. Significantly. Belinda is truly starting to understand this isn't a phase, and her attempts to fix things, they've become desperate. 3 weeks ago, she tried a different approach. She came home from drinks with friends, wearing one of my old college t-shirts, the one she used to sleep in. I was reading in bed. She sat on the edge, started crying. She missed me, she said. Missed what we had. She'd made a mistake. She wanted to go back to how things were. I put my book down. "What specifically do you miss, Belinda?" I asked. She said she missed feeling close to someone, having someone who cared for her. I told her, genuinely, that it sounded like she was going through a difficult time and might benefit from counseling. I even suggested sliding scale therapy options or mental health apps if cost was a concern. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. "Are you seriously recommending therapy instead of talking about us?" she choked out. I simply said I wasn't qualified to help her work through her feelings about missing intimacy and emotional connection. A professional would be much better equipped. She just got up and left the room. The next morning, she acted like it never happened, but I could tell she was studying my behavior, looking for cracks in my roommate facade. The lease situation finally came to a head last week. Our landlord sent the renewal notice, and I left it on the kitchen counter. She found it after a freelance meeting. "Are we going to renew?" she asked, her voice a little too casual. "No," I said. "I've decided not to. I've already signed a lease on a different place, starting next month." "Where does that leave me?" The panic in her voice was undeniable. "You'll need to decide if you want to take over this lease by yourself or find somewhere else," I stated calmly. "I can ask the landlord if he'd remove my name if you want to stay." That's when she completely lost it. She started yelling that I was abandoning her, leaving her with no way to afford the rent, calling me cruel, saying I was punishing her for being honest about her feelings. I stayed calm. Roommates don't typically sign long-term leases together unless they've discussed and agreed on terms, I reminded her. "I assumed you'd want the freedom to make your own housing decisions as an independent adult." She insisted I knew she couldn't afford this place alone, that I was deliberately putting her in an impossible situation. "You never asked me about my plans for the lease," I pointed out, "even though you had 6 weeks. If you had asked, we could have had this conversation much earlier, and you'd have had more time to explore options." "Why are you doing this to me?" she screamed, tears streaming. "You're being vindictive. You're trying to hurt me because I don't love you the way you want." "I'm not trying to hurt anyone," I countered, my voice flat. "You made it clear you wanted to be friends, not romantic partners. I'm respecting that by not making assumptions about our future living arrangements." "What am I supposed to do now?" she wailed. I suggested looking for other roommates, or perhaps moving back in with her parents temporarily. Patty mentioned she was looking for someone to split a 2-bedroom. She scoffed. Moving back with her parents would be humiliating. Patty's apartment was in a bad neighborhood. "Those are definitely challenging options," I conceded. "But I'm confident you'll figure something out. You were living independently before we moved in together, remember?" She argued that was different. She had a steady job then. I agreed her financial situation was more challenging now, but that was exactly why it made sense for her to have control over her expenses, instead of depending on someone else. The conversation ended with her storming out. She came back hours later and didn't speak to me for 3 days. During that time, I could hear her on the phone constantly. Long, tense conversations with her parents. What sounded like a difficult call with Patty. I gathered Patty's timeline didn't match Belinda's needs. On Thursday, she asked if we could talk. She'd clearly been crying, looked exhausted. She said she'd been thinking, realized she might have been taking me for granted. She wanted to work on rebuilding our relationship. What do you mean by rebuilding our relationship? I asked. I want us to be a couple again, she said. She'd been confused before, but now she understood what she really wanted. She'd been scared of commitment, she said, had convinced herself she didn't have strong feelings. Living as friends had made her realize how much she actually cared. That's interesting, I replied. When exactly did you realize you were in love with me again? She said it had been building, but became clear when she thought about me moving out. The timing, to me, seemed convenient. Given she'd just discovered she couldn't afford our apartment without me. She got defensive. Money has nothing to do with it. I genuinely miss being close to you. I want to give us another try. I told her I appreciated her honesty, but I wasn't interested in dating her again. She looked shocked. Why not? She asked. Because you already told me you weren't in love with me, I explained. And I believed you. I don't think people's feelings change that dramatically in just 6 weeks. She insisted her feelings were real, asked what she could do to prove it. There's nothing you can do, I said, because I'm no longer in love with you either. That wasn't entirely true when I said it, but it became true as I was saying it. Something shifted in that moment. I realized I was truly done. She started crying again. You're giving up on us too easily. Relationships require work and compromise. You're right, I said. They do. But they also require both people to actually want to be in the relationship. And I no longer want to be in a romantic relationship with you. She's been staying at Amanda's for the past few days, probably hoping I'll change my mind. I won't. I move out next Friday. Most of my stuff is packed. Movers are coming. She can keep anything we bought together. I just want my personal belongings and a fresh start. Update 3. The end I moved out 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to give you all a final update. Belinda came back to the apartment the day before my move. She'd been with Amanda for almost a week, and I think she expected to find me still there, surrounded by unpacked boxes, maybe having second thoughts. Instead, she found most of my stuff already packed. Movers scheduled for the next morning. Are you really going through with it? She asked, her voice small. Yes, I said. I'm moving out as planned. She said she'd been talking to Amanda and Patty, and they thought we should try couples counseling before making any permanent decisions. I told her I wasn't interested in couples counseling because I didn't consider us a couple anymore. She said she understood I was hurt, but walking away wasn't the solution. We built something good together, she insisted. It's worth fighting for. What exactly did we build together that's worth fighting for? I asked, genuinely curious. She mentioned our shared friends, our comfortable routine, how well we worked as a team when there wasn't relationship drama. I pointed out that those things sounded like a good roommate situation, not a romantic relationship. She got frustrated. You're being deliberately difficult, she snapped. I know you still have feelings for me. You're just being stubborn. What makes you think I still have feelings for you? I can tell by the way you look at me sometimes, she cried. Nobody changes their behavior as dramatically as you have unless they're trying to protect themselves from getting hurt. That's an interesting theory, I said, but you're wrong. My behavior changed because my feelings changed. She asked when I had stopped loving her. I thought about it. It was probably the night I realized you told your friends about our conversation before you'd even finished having it with me. I explained. That's when I understood you weren't actually interested in an honest conversation with me. You were just looking for validation from your friends about a decision you'd already made. That's not fair, she protested. I just needed support from my friends. I understand why you needed support, I said, but the timing showed me you weren't considering my perspective or leaving room for us to work through things. You'd already decided how that conversation was going to go. She started crying again. I never meant for things to end this way. I believe you, I replied, but intentions don't really matter as much as actions. The movers arrived at 8 a.m. the next morning. Belinda stayed in her bedroom, crying, while they loaded everything. I'd already moved most of my personal stuff. Before I left, I knocked on her door to say goodbye. No answer, just muffled sobs. I left my key on the kitchen counter, with a note for mail forwarding. My new apartment is great. Smaller, yes, but everything in it belongs to me. It reflects my preferences. No compromises. I have a reading chair by the window for my morning coffee, plants on the balcony, my office set up exactly how I want it. It's peaceful. I've even been dating someone new for about 3 weeks. Her name is Rebecca, a nurse. We met in that hiking group I joined. She has her own apartment, pays her own bills, never asks me to fix anything or run her errands. When Rebecca cooks, she cleans up. When we go out, she pays for her own meal unless we specifically agree otherwise. When she says she loves spending time with me, she shows it by planning activities we can do together, not just expecting me to do everything. It's been a powerful reminder of what a balanced relationship actually looks like. Belinda texted me last week. She wanted to meet for coffee, for closure, to apologize. I didn't respond. We already had closure the day I moved out. She doesn't need my permission to apologize, and I don't need to hear it to move on. From what I understand through mutual friends, she ended up moving back in with her parents. She's still freelancing, but she's also looking for a full-time job with benefits. Patty mentioned Belinda's been asking about me, wondering if I'm happy. Patty even asked if I'd be open to talking to Belinda. I told her Belinda was welcome to reach out if she had something specific to discuss, but I wasn't interested in rekindling our friendship or rehashing our past. Patty said Belinda was having a hard time adjusting, felt like she'd lost her best friend and her boyfriend. That's unfortunate, I told Patty, but it's a natural consequence of the choices Belinda made. I truly hope she figures things out and finds happiness, but I'm not the right person to help her with that process. Some people might think I was too harsh, too cold, but I believe Belinda needed to learn that relationships have real consequences. You can't expect someone to wait around indefinitely while you figure out what you want. She told me she wasn't in love with me, so I stopped acting like someone who was. She wanted the benefits of a devoted boyfriend without the obligations of being a devoted girlfriend. When I stopped providing those benefits, she realized what she was giving up. But by then, I'd realized what I was giving up to. My time, my energy, my money, all to someone who didn't appreciate it enough to love me back. I was settling. I'm not angry with Belinda anymore. I think she's a decent person who made some selfish choices without fully thinking through the implications. But I also don't miss her. I don't wish things had worked out differently. I'm much happier now with someone who actually wants to be with me, rather than someone who just likes the lifestyle I can provide. Now, I'm genuinely curious, if you were in my shoes, after all that, what would you have done? Would you have given her another chance? Let me know in the comments.